It was a crisp autumn evening in Chicago, the kind where the wind off Lake Michigan whips through the skyscrapers like a harbinger of change. I stood outside the gleaming glass tower of Apex Innovations, my severance papers clutched in one hand, a cardboard box of desk trinkets in the other. At 26, I was Alex Rivera, the ambitious marketing whiz kid from a working-class family in the South Side, who'd bootstrapped her way through community college and into this cutthroat corporate world. My boss, Victor Harlan, the slick VP with a Harvard pedigree and a penchant for power ties, had just fired me in a boardroom ambush, citing performance issues that were as fabricated as his spray tan. But as the L train rumbled beneath my feet, taking me home to my cramped Wrigleyville apartment, a fire ignited in my chest. This wasn't the end of my story, it was the prologue to his downfall. What unfolded that night wasn't just revenge, it was a meticulously orchestrated symphony of destruction that shattered his career into irreparable pieces, all before the sun rose over the windy city. Let me rewind to paint the full picture, because every epic takedown has its origin in the everyday grind. I started at Apex 2 years ago, fresh out of a night school MBA program, eyes wide with dreams of climbing the ladder. Apex was a tech startup turned powerhouse, specializing in AI-driven marketing tools. Think algorithms that predict consumer behavior better than a psychic at a county fair. I was hired as a junior analyst, but my ideas quickly propelled me to lead on major campaigns. Victor, in his mid-40s with a receding hairline he hid under expensive hats, was my direct superior. He was the epitome of corporate sleaze, charming in meetings, tyrannical behind closed doors. He'd steal credit for my work, like the viral social media strategy for a Fortune 500 client that I designed from scratch, only for him to present it as his brilliant innovation at the quarterly review. The unfairness simmered, but I tolerated it. Bills don't pay themselves in a city where rent rivals a mortgage. Then came the red flags. Whispers in the break room about Victor's extracurriculars, late-night meetings with interns, expense reports padded with lavish dinners at places like Alinea, and a habit of burying complaints under HR bureaucracy. I ignored it until it hit home. Last spring, I pitched a groundbreaking project, an AI ethics framework to ensure our tools didn't perpetuate biases, inspired by my own experiences as a Latina woman in tech. Victor shot it down publicly, calling it woke nonsense, but weeks later, he repurposed it for a TEDx talk, claiming it as his brainchild. My promotion? Denied. Raises? Frozen. Instead, he loaded me with grunt work, setting impossible deadlines to test my mettle. The breaking point came on that fateful Friday in October 2025. Apex was gearing up for a massive IPO, the kind that could make millionaires out of managers like Victor. I'd been pulling 80-hour weeks, crunching data for the investor pitch deck. That morning, I discovered anomalies in the financials. Victor had been inflating metrics, fudging user engagement numbers to hype the stock value. It was fraud, plain and simple, the sort that could tank the company if exposed. Naively, I confronted him in his corner office, overlooking Millennium Park. "This could ruin us," I said, slides in hand. His response? A cold laugh. "Alex, you're out of your depth. Pack your things, you're fired for insubordination." Security escorted me out like a criminal, my access revoked before I could even email the evidence to myself. Humiliation burned hot as I rode the red line home, tears mixing with the graffiti on the windows. My roommate, Mia, a barista with a side gig in graphic design, found me on the couch, drowning in Ben & Jerry's. "That bastard," she fumed, handing me a glass of cheap Cabernet from Trader Joe's. But as the wine loosened my thoughts, clarity emerged. Victor wasn't untouchable, he was a house of cards built on lies. I had scraps of evidence on my personal laptop, screenshots from late-night work sessions, emails he'd CC'd me on by mistake. More importantly, I had skills. Digital forensics from online courses, a network of tech-savvy friends from hackathons, and a burning resolve. That night, I decided, if he destroyed my career, I'd obliterate his. Phase 1. Intelligence gathering. I transformed my living room into a war room, post-it notes covering the walls like a detective's board in a true crime doc. First, I scoured public records using free tools like LinkedIn and the SEC database. Victor's profile screamed privilege. Prep school, Ivy League, a string of cushy jobs. But digging deeper via alumni forums revealed dirt. He'd been accused of plagiarism in grad school, swept under the rug by daddy's donations. Next, I tapped into my network. A former colleague, anonymously via Signal app, confirmed the rumors. Victor was embezzling, using company cards for personal luxuries, including gifts for his mistress, a junior exec named Lila. Another tip, he kept sensitive files on a personal cloud drive, accessible via a weak password I'd glimpsed during a shared screen session. Harvard champ 1980, as predictable as his ego. Suspense mounted as I hacked ethically, or so I rationalized, into his digital footprint. Using a VPN and open-source tools like Maltego, I mapped his online presence. His Twitter, now X, was a goldmine of hypocrisy, posts railing against corporate welfare queens while he siphoned funds. I found deleted tweets via Wayback Machine, bragging about creative accounting. But the jackpot? His LinkedIn connections led to disgruntled ex-employees who'd formed a private Reddit subgroup, r/Apex Exiles, spilling tea on his harassment. One post detailed a quid pro quo scheme with vendors, kickbacks for contracts. I screenshot everything, building a dossier thicker than a Chicago phone book. As midnight approached, the plan crystallized. Victor was attending the annual Tech Titans Gala that very night at the Art Institute of Chicago, a black tie event schmoozing with investors pre-IPO. It was his big moment, toasting to Apex's future. I'd crash it digitally. I coded a simple script in Python, thanks to Codecademy Nights, automating emails from a spoofed address mimicking Apex's CFO. The payload, my compiled evidence, financial discrepancies, harassment logs, plagiarism proof, sent to every board member, key investors, and even the SEC tip line. To add flair, I embedded a tracker. When opened, it'd ping his location, confirming he was at the gala. But I needed more, something personal to twist the knife. Remembering Lila, I cross-referenced her Instagram. Bingo, geotagged posts from Victor's lake house in Michigan, paid for with company dime. Photos showed them together, timestamps overlapping business trips. I anonymized and bundled it all. At 11:45 p.m., as the gala hit its peak with champagne toasts, I hit send. Then the piece de resistance, a deepfake video, crafted with free AI tools like DeepFaceLab. It showed Victor confessing to the fraud in his own voice, pieced from public speeches. I uploaded it to a burner YouTube account and blasted links via bots to tech forums and X hashtags like #ApexIPO and #corporate fraud. The fallout was immediate, like a domino chain in a Rube Goldberg machine. My phone buzzed with alerts. I'd set up Google notifications for Apex. First, X blew up. Influencers at the gala live tweeting chaos. VP Harlan just got served, literal emails dropping bombshells mid-speech. One read, "Investors pulled out on the spot. The board called an emergency huddle." By 1 a.m., news sites like TechCrunch ran headlines, "Apex VP exposed in massive fraud scandal, IPO in jeopardy." Victor's face, pale and panicked, splashed across screens. The SEC launched an investigation by dawn, freezing assets. Lila? She lawyered up, turning state's evidence for immunity. But the real mind-blower came at 3 a.m. As I sipped victory coffee, a knock echoed at my door. Paranoia spiked. Had he traced me? No, it was Mia, back from her shift, with a wild revelation. She'd dated Victor's nephew in college and remembered a family secret. Victor had a prior conviction for insider trading, expunged but not erased from old court records she'd once seen. We dug it up via Pacer, adding it to an anonymous tip to the FBI. By morning, he was arrested at O'Hare, trying to flee to the Caymans. In the weeks that followed, Apex imploded. The IPO tanked, stock value plummeted, layoffs ensued, but not for me. Whistleblower protections kicked in. I was reinstated with back pay, promoted to Victor's old role after the dust settled. Disbarred from the industry, divorced, bankrupt, reduced to consulting gigs in obscurity. Last I heard, he was slinging real estate in some Florida suburb, a shadow of his former self. As I stand now on the balcony of my new Gold Coast condo, watching the city lights twinkle like stars in a Midwest sky, I ponder the cost. Revenge is a high-octane fuel, but it leaves scars. Yet in America's arena of ambition, where the underdog can topple giants, I emerged victorious. Fired unfairly? Perhaps. But in one night I didn't just destroy his career, I reclaimed mine, proving that in the game of corporate chess, the pawn can checkmate the king. And if you're facing your own victor? Remember, knowledge is power, timing is everything, and karma? She's a fierce ally when you arm her right. The end of his era, the dawn of mine.